Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Ireland Community Fund, which is designed to provide funding to non-profit organisations and communities to help rural economy. Question to the Minister. It's been 6 years. When will you finally report the performance of the programme? The programme came in 6 years ago.
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries, Aquaculture and Rural Development.
A good question, Madam Speaker. I was just looking today at his minister's statement later on. We've announced more money for the Sportsplex in Surrey. I delivered through my department 45,000. And the MLA in the area couldn't get the federal government on side. I talked to the federal government, and they come through with over 100-some thousand to help you out down there. If that's not good performance, I don't know what is.
The Honourable Member for Surrey, Elmira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a little correction.
Call the inquirer.
We put in for funding. The Eastern Kings Sportsplex put in for funding. We were told there was no funding. Your application came in too late, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and the feds matched your dollars. Madam Speaker, to the Minister, the programme has $4.2 million that lapsed. $4.2 million you did not spend, Minister. Why haven't you been helping Rural PEI, making sure that $4.2 million is being spent?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries, Aquaculture and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, I can't believe that he's listened to Paul McNeill. You've got to get out in Rural PEI to find out what's going on. You're in record here. You said there was no money. Well, today the Ireland Community Fund will announce, along with federal government, Ireland Community Fund, $45,000 to fix up your rink, which you're the manager of, and $113,004 from the federal government, which I negotiated, which you said you couldn't do. We've got it done. How many times do I have to explain this to you? And I can go over other projects, the Port Authority in Surrey, larger holding facilities, which, mind you were against. More larger, 56,000 to upgrade their holding facilities. Then the next question was, you were against it, but all of a sudden the Port Authority, which is one of the best port authorities we have in the province of Prince Edward Island, come through for another program, and this time the federal government on the side, and we announced 220,000, 110 for the province of PEI, and 110 that you're against. You're against everything in that writing because you're born to be negative.
The Honourable Member for Surrey, Elmira.
Born to be negative. Madam Speaker, this program was supposed to help economic development in rural PEI. 50% of the money rural communities was to be for economic development projects. 50% of the money was supposed to be rural economic development. Question to the Minister. Why was only 26%, not 50%, spent on economic development in rural PEI and projects?
The Honourable Minister of Rural Development.
There's a quite simple answer. I got some MLAs out there like yourself that are negative. There was only 50% of his votes. Now,
the Minister has the floor, please.
if you want to listen, and Paul McNeill should listen too, I explained it to him a lot of times, I'll send it to him in writing. But out of that 26% that we're supposed to spend 50%, I got to get applications in. They got to be feasible, sound. We just don't write out checks like you did with Ocean Choice and cost the province $40 million. And I held 400,000 in one part. There was only probably 56,000 in that year, so we put that into another section. But we got to get the applications in. But if you got members like you in opposition going around negative, what's to discourage people from applying? They got to apply first.
The Honourable Member for Surrey, Elmira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you think you'd figured out why there's no applications coming in. This government has got organisations, you've got communities, you've got them broke. They're broke. They can't afford their share. Do you think you go back to the table and you see where you're only spending $26,000 of rural communities funds? There's only $26,000 and you were supposed to spend 50%. People can't afford it. You told Eastern Kings Sportsplex, you told the Board of Directors, cut back on your project. We haven't got the funding. There's $4.2 million left. Lapsed. And you told them they didn't have the money. Minister, are you happy that Rural PEI is losing out on $4.2 million?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries, Aquaculture,
The
Rural
program
Development.
is your island, your small hauls and that doesn't fall under this section of what the auditor was talking about. Economic development section would come under holding facilities for lobsters that are, or other expansions like that. The grain elevators, the meat plant, that's what economic development under that section is. But under that particular section, because the negativity must be, like you're up here in the House all the time going on negative, some people mustn't apply. You've got to apply for that. In the section with Island Community Funds, or where your RIC is, our money is all spent in that particular section. And that's why we come up with your $45,000 to fix the board, your RIC, and that's why I went to the federal government and negotiated another $100 and some thousand. You talk about balance of the budget. Island Community Fund used to be $5 million, but we get 2.3 now.
You can only build so many parking lots in Charlotte.
No, listen.
The Minister has the floor.
But I talked to the Valcor when he was the minister, along with the Minister of Economic Development, and they said they'd like to piggyback on this particular program we have because they're doing so much in the rural areas. And I said, well, that's just great with me. So all of a sudden, my $2.3 million went to $5.6 million, more money than ever went out in the communities. But why, when I can get federal money, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to spend all provincial money? That's like your leader of the opposition saying, oh, fix the house, it's a national monument, fix it, but take our money. Why should we look after when the federal government comes through with the money? Come see me someday, instead of being so negative, I'll explain out how politics works and the facts of life.
The Honourable Member for Surrey, Elmira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this minister is making quite a joke out of Rural PEI, Madam Speaker. There's $4.2 million there that you took from Rural PEI. I don't know if the Treasurer's got it in his general account, but there's $4.2 million out there. There's people out there couldn't get projects because there was no money left in the funding. We can't make any announcements until September. That's what you said. And there's $4.2 million left, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Minister, why have you made it so Rural PEI people can't afford to access that $4.2 million?